Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Just one sad thing that I might say before we actually start. I'm sure you all already know that Janet Somerville died sadly on Saturday. Janet was a very, very delightful lady. She made the trek from the northeast of England to south of Watford, which I think, if you've lived all your life up in the northeast, to come down south takes a great deal of courage, and I think she wanted to be with her, close to her family as well. She was an active member of this committee, as members will know, a great love of the Surrey countryside and particularly its trees, and no doubt one or two of you will remember some of her more robust comments. I think one of them I do recall when we were debating something in terms of enforcement, that it was time for us to kick ass. Could I invite us all, please? Maybe we could stand just for a minute and remember a great lady. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on then with the meeting itself, the gentleman in the public gallery there is no plan for a fire alarm test this evening, so if you hear a continuously ringing bell, we should vacate the premises as quickly as we can by the green marked exits, that one there, or one over here. We gather under the canopy over at Waitrose should you need to do a little late night shopping, but please don't use the lift. Can we all please, members of the public and members, make sure our mobile phones are switched off or to silent, and could we also make sure our cards are plugged in? We are being webcast. Item 1 then, the minutes of our meeting held on the 8th of October. They've been on the table there for the last half hour or so. Is it your wish that I sign them as a correct record? Thank you very much. Apologies for absence, please, Fiona.
Thank you, Chairman. I've had apologies from Councillors Jenny Else and Nicholas Holder.
Thank you very much. Disclosure of interests, members?
None received.
Any late disclosures at all? No. Questions by members of the public?
None, Chairman.
Thank you. And any relevant updates to government guidance or legislation since the last meeting? Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, there has been an important change to government practice guidance since your last meeting. On the 29th of November, last weekend, the government published an amendment to the National Planning Policy Guidance in respect of infrastructure and affordable housing contributions. In summary, this states that, effective immediately, infrastructure contributions should not be sought from developments of 10 units or less and which have a maximum combined gross floor space of no more than 1,000 square metres. This means that planning obligations should not be sought to contribute to pooled funding pots intending to fund the provision of general infrastructure in the wider area. There is an exception for securing contributions to SANG for mitigating impact upon European protected sites, that's SPA, and this is clearly more relevant to developments in the Farnham area in respect to the Thames Basin Heaths SPA and the Hindhead avoidance strategies, so less relevant to this part of the borough. In relation to affordable housing, contributions should not be sought for developments of 10 units or less and which have a maximum combined gross floor space of no more than 1,000 square metres. Rural exception sites are exempted from this, i.e. contributions can still be sought. Members will be advised more fully on the implications for affordable housing contributions in due course by the Head of Planning. Notably, there are no applications on tonight's agenda in respect of affordable housing. The implications for planning applications on the agenda in respect to the planning infrastructure contribution tariff are set out in the update sheet that was sent to members yesterday and which has been available on our website overnight. And officers will make specific reference to this where relevant in the presentations to follow. I do hope this is helpful. Officers will send members the link to the updated guidance tomorrow. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Personally, I'm not too sure what to make of that, actually, but it would appear that the Dartford Warbler is actually covered. I'll leave you to work that one out. Moving on then to item 6, Quarterly Planning Enforcement Report, from page 5 to 14. Beth.
Thank you, Chairman. This report provides members with an update on the progress of the Planning Enforcement Service for the quarter July to September. If I take you first to page 7, which are the site-specific updates for the eastern area, there's no change with the first two, but on page 8, just as a way of update, a letter's now been sent out to the landowner reminding him of the requirement to comply with the notice by April 2015. Taking you then to page 10, which is under section 2, you'll note that our cases on hand figure has hit a low for certainly the last year and last year's comparable quarter, which is of note, particularly because we received a very high number of complaints but still managed to close a high number of complaints, and 222 is a 12% decrease of cases since the previous quarter. You'll note on page 11, table 3, performance against the local performance indicator. We've had a bit of a dip against the performance indicator, but it's still well over the target of 70% to be actioned within 12 weeks. On page 13, if I first take you to heading 4, notices served, of particular interest to this area committee will be the barn at Brookhurst Grange. We served an enforcement notice in respect of a barn that had been erected in Ewhurst. And then if I take you to the section above, appeal decisions, appeals lodged, you'll note that this notice was actually appealed. Just by way of update on this one, there was another separate planning application appeal running separately to this enforcement appeal, which is since writing this report has been allowed. So we're in the process of writing a report seeking to withdraw the notice to avoid any unnecessary costs being incurred. Alongside under under section 3, you'll note that good news that the downside appeal was robustly dismissed. On the other hand, the Halcyon Waters appeal was allowed, which is a disappointing outcome for us, but lessons have been learnt from that. That's all I have, Chairman. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth. Mrs. James.
Thank you, Beth. Obviously some good news there and also a bit of bad news by the sound of things. I'm going to go on to this issue of Brookhurst Grange and Holbury Road. I mean, just for fellow committee members, my understanding, a barn constructed not conforming to the dimensions for which planning permission was given, in a site that wasn't, again, conforming to the planning permission. So, if you like, everything that could possibly have been done has been done, but not conforming with the planning permission, and yet the appeal was allowed. Can you shed some light? What happened? Where did we go wrong? We being Waverley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had two appeals at the same time, running concurrently. One, enforcement interest, and then they had a Section 78 appeal. The enforcement was stopped after the Section 78 planning appeal. Now, we gave a robust case. I gave the case, so I'm bound to say it was robust. And we put the argument forward for all the reasons you said. It's in the wrong location. There's no considerations to amount to very special circumstances. It is not an agricultural use. And the inspector decided that although it was the training of horses, it fell within agriculture, therefore need not be inappropriate development in the Greenbelt, and decided to allow the appeal. But we did put a robust case forward on the grounds you've suggested.
Chairman, if you would allow me, because what I'd like to commend to all the other committee members is that the Waverley planning team and the enforcement team did everything they possibly could. But we've made the comment in the past with other scenarios where the appeal judgment and the inspector seems to see a completely different picture. So I think I would like to see it noting, if you don't mind, that, you know, our team did the very best they could. And well done.
Thank you very much, Mr. James. Any other comments or questions, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Goodrich.
Well, just to say, congratulating the team on the summary of caseload that's still there, and of course it's remarkable in the last quarter that we've closed 126 cases, which is nearly double what, or 1.5 times what we would normally expect. So clearly a lot of work's been done to achieve that, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. No other comments? Bottom of page 13 then, members, you have a recommendation that we note the performance of our planning enforcement team. That agreed? Thank you. Thank you very much, Beth. Item 7 then, and the quarterly appeals report on page 15. Barry?
I'm going to start by apologising for the mistakes in front, trying to steal the committee's kudos. This was a committee decision and it was dismissed by the inspector, so the committee got this one wholly correct. Yes. The application was at the Woodyard, Church Road, Hascombe. It was for the change of use of the existing building from Class B2 to form 2 units for use within Class B1. Now, the main issues here were whether it was inappropriate development in the Greenbelt, whether it had a detrimental impact on the conservation area, and whether there was issues with highway and traffic movements. The inspector disagreed with the impact on the conservation area, the character and amenity of the area, and on highway movements. However, the inspector did decide that the works undertaken so as to reuse the buildings were tantamount to a rebuild of the property, and therefore he concluded that it was inappropriate development in the Greenbelt, and there was no consideration so as to outweigh the harm. So in conclusion, he says that although the proposed development would not cause an acceptable harm to the character and appearance of the surrounding area or highway safety, these matters do not clearly outweigh the harm by reason of inappropriateness and the conflict with national and local Greenbelt policy. The applicant has, last week or the week before, I think it was last week, submitted a revised application, christened in the correct way, for the building of 2 units, albeit in retrospective nature, and that's currently under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barry. Any comments? Or can we go to the recommendation that the committee notes the recent appeals decision? Are we agreed? As amended. Thank you, Mr. Gates. Moving on then, applications for planning permission. Under 8.1, you'll notice that should we have we could have had a site visit on the 1st of December. Too late now, of course. If you feel that is one necessary, it will take place on the 12th of January. Moving on then to item 8.2. Item A1, WA 2014/1303, the erection of 2 dwellings following demolition of existing storage building as amended by plans received on the 29th of September 2014 at land at the Cranley Hotel, the Common, Cranley. Barry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening I shall be playing the part of Joe Dawes, who's not with us, so I shall take you through this application. It is, as Mr. Chairman has described, the erection of 2 dwellings following the demolition of outbuildings associated with the Cranley Hotel. The application site is located to the south of Guildford Road, approximately 0.1 hectares in size, and is land currently used as ancillary storage in association with the Cranley Hotel. Here we have an aerial photograph showing the site in its context, and here we have a view of the Cranley Hotel and the site taken from the Guildford Road. Here we see the application site and the site for the proposed access. I'm going to take you through just a few photographs before I take you in detail of the proposal. Here we have, this arrow indicates where the next photograph is from. So this is a view of Laundry Cottage. The application site is behind this large hedge. And then this is another photograph showing you where the next photograph has been taken from, which is further down the road, Guildford Road, showing the application site in this location here. The dwellings would protrude slightly in front. So if I take you through the application is for erection of 2 linked detached 4-bedroom houses, each of a Surrey vernacular style with front-facing gables, height of which would be approximately 9 metres with an eaves height of 5.6. Here we have the existing site plan showing that existing outbuilding we spoke of before. Here is the proposed layout. As indicated, stands slightly proud of the Cranley Hotel, which I'm indicating on the screen as such. Proposed access to the site, as the first photograph shown, is from an existing access which is currently in place, and here we have the tracking details to show how that would be achieved. Here we have the proposed elevations and a little artist's impression of those elevations in front. As I say, they are of a traditional Surrey vernacular. This is tiles, not weatherboarding as it may look like on the elevations you see in front of you. Here we have the proposed floor plans showing accommodation in the roof space, so accommodation spread over all 3 floors. Taken now to determining issues. First issue is the planning history and differences with the previous application and appeal decision. You'll see that we have the appeal decision in your papers at Annex 1, where an appeal was dismissed for a significantly larger form of development, and I can show you what that was. It was this on the screen in front of you. It was for 5 dwellings, and this was refused on the cramped nature of the proposal, the design and the impact it would have on the conservation area and on the residential amenities and neighbouring properties. Back to determining issues. Officers consider that given the reduction in size of the units, number of units rather, that we've overcome, or they have overcome rather, the issues with regards to impact on conservation area and residential amenities. Next, the lawful use of the land. The lawful use of the land is associated with the Cranley Hotel. Officers do not consider the outbuilding forms an ancillary role. It's for storage. It doesn't form part of an active role of the Cranley Hotel. Officers consider that the loss of that and the small part of garden area would not prejudice the ability of the Cranley Hotel to function as it currently does. Next, we have a matter of principle housing land supply. As members will be cognizant of, the local authority has less than 5 years' worth of housing land supply, and this is a material consideration in favour of the application. Access and parking. The application proposes 5 car parking spaces in line with the Waverley Borough Council parking guidelines, and as the tracked drawing showed you before, they can be accessed in a safe way. Going on to planning infrastructure contributions, I will update you in the update sheet when I've finished doing this. As Mr Sims has alluded to, following government advice, or guidance rather, we are now seeking £0 and pence as opposed to the whatever it was before, 23,000. Next, matters of judgment. We have the impact on building of local merit and conservation area. The Cranley Hotel is a building of local merit, as are Laundry Cottages, which are located to the rear. So So the cottages I'm indicating on the screen here are buildings of local buildings of local merit, as is the Cranley Hotel in this location. Officers consider that the redesign and standing on its own merits, the scheme in front of you, would not have a detrimental impact on those undesignated heritage assets. With regards to residential amenity, in relation to impact on neighbouring properties, officers consider that there's sufficient distance around the dwelling so as not to overlook to any greater extent the properties are already overlooked, and that with regards to future occupiers, there is sufficient amenity space to meet the needs of future occupiers family-wise. Looking at design, visual impact and layout, following discussions with the Historic Buildings Officer, he is content with the design. He thinks that it is commensurate with the area and will not have a detrimental impact on the wider architectural value of Cranley. If I now take you to the update sheet, we start off with that breaking news with regards to planning infrastructure contribution now equaling 0. We then have the comments of the Historic Buildings Officer, who notes that both the Cranley Hotel and Laundry Cottages are buildings of local interest. However, given the design and the context of the site, he doesn't think there will be a detrimental impact on them. Then we have comments from the Environmental Health Officer. We have some additional representations which are covered in the report about impact of design, the integrity of the buildings of local merit, the privacy of neighbours, the planting that could be removed, and the rights of way issues. Any rights of way issues are civil matters or certainly dealt with by separate legislation. We then have a look at amended. Well, there's no amendment to existing conditions. However, the informative on page 40 of the agenda relates to planning infrastructure contributions and now needs to be removed as it's superfluous. We then have the revised recommendation, which is that having regard to the development no longer attracting planning infrastructure contributions, recommendation A be amended to permission be granted subject to conditions 1 to 14 on pages 36 to 40, and the additional condition, which is the standard one with regards to extra information with regards to the detailed design of the proposal. And then we also have the additional informative as recommended by the Environmental Health Officer to take relevant precautions to minimise the potential for disturbance to neighbours' residents during the demolition and construction phases. And then, of course, recommendation B will now be removed in its entirety because there's no need for a legal agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barry. This, of course, is an application subject to public speaking, but I am advised now that we have no public speakers. So, members, the floor is yours. Mrs. Ellis.
Thank you, Chairman. It's clear from the application, from the reports, there's been a significant reduction in the number of properties proposed, and also the developer has taken, I think, quite stringent steps to address concerns that have been expressed before. That, I suppose, in itself is not a reason for granting permission, but I do believe that the two properties on this site are very acceptable. The site is in a very, very favourable position in Cranley, opposite the cricket green, and I believe that the proposed properties will be a most acceptable addition to this very attractive part of Cranley. And based on those thoughts, unless I hear to the contrary, I would support the officers in their recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comment? Mrs. Wojciechowski.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to agree with my fellow councillor. I think this is a good scheme and a good location, and proven that they've done a tremendous amount of work to make the scheme acceptable to the locality. So I fully support your recommendation.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? No? Then can we go to the update sheet, ladies and gentlemen, on the bottom of, I think it's actually page 2. And on to page 3, there is a revised recommendation that permission be granted subject to conditions number 1 to 14 on pages 36 to 40 of the agenda, and the additional condition below and an additional informative over the page. Are we agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. A very, very short agenda. Falls to me, ladies and gentlemen. I know we will be gathered together here next Tuesday, but allow me to wish you an early, enjoyable Christmas. It used to be years ago when I was chairing Development Control Committee B that your chairman would invite you all out for a Christmas drink. I am sorely tempted, Mr. Gates, to nip out now, but I rather feel that if I did, I wouldn't be back for 7:15 and Central. You are welcome to hang around if you like and try and prize something out of my wallet. I do have to advise you, though, that the Central looks to be a rather busy meeting. 6 applications this evening, 3 of them with public speaking. So I'm not sure I could invite my wife to float a kitty. Anyway, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not going to stay, have a safe journey home.